Good evening. For those in the viewing audience, it is 6:05 p.m. There was a technical difficulty at the beginning of our meeting, so the calling to order and the pledge were not audio or videotaped. Rest assured, you did not miss any actions of this board. We were just beginning to have a discussion on the 2013-2014 budget, and I will turn the floor now back to Ms. Papazoglu. Thank you.
Basically, we were in discussions about where we expect the budget to be at the end of June 2013, and the district currently is projecting a $2.6 million deficit. I mentioned to the board earlier that all along this year we had hoped to sell properties valued at $2 million or more, and that did not come to fruition. So that increased our deficit from approximately $800,000 at the expected time to about 2.6. So I've done, this time of year we typically can close out purchase orders, our salaries get aligned perfectly in terms of substitutes and things of that nature, and we're able to get a better picture on what really the financial expenditures look like. Revenue really didn't change too much. Which is common. So again, that end of June 30th, 2013, the district expects to be in deficit $2.6 million. So let's begin to discuss what happens in 2013 and 14. And again, I'll remind those for the board and the community that once the district does go into deficit and adopts this particular deficit on Monday, we have 30 days from that point to file the deficit elimination plan. So that plan will be due July 30th. And I have communications from MDE making sure that I understand the dates and things of that nature. So that's another thing we'll be working on. But let's talk about 13-14. So I have two scenarios in front of you tonight. And basically, the only difference between the two involves the amount of students enrollment and how we what kind of, what our budget will predict in terms of loss of students or no loss of students. And that's really where I'm going to take a lot of the discussion tonight, so that I provide you with a budget that, that's acceptable to you on Monday night. So basically, we're going to be starting off the year at $2.6 million deficit. Let's look at the second column for the spreadsheet, and it talks about stable enrollment and sale of our properties. So again, this budget will include the sale of all the properties, which is over, basically, now that we've added Merriman to that list of properties for sale, it's over $2 million of revenue that the district would get, and we are active and engaged in trying to sell those properties, and we will be throughout the course of this next fiscal year. So that was an increase in revenue from the $34 million in the previous year to almost $33 million this year. But keep in mind that about $3 million of grants are going away, not because the district did anything wrong. It's just the end times. Most of that is SIG related, if you remember. And again, just to remind the board and the community that the district is also experiencing a decline or reduction in all of our title grants, as well as our IDE grants. We don't have final allocations on IDEA, but we're projecting at least a 10% decline. Now, if that gets better, that will allow us to take some of the general fund, and it's allowable, some of the general fund salaries and special ed, and reappropriate them to IDEA. But again, we always take a conservative measure and plan for the worst, and that's the worst right now.
And our IDEA is?
Only serves special education students.
Just for listeners.
IDEA, yes. I don't really know what the acronym stands for, but it's for special education students.
Well, IDEA is Individual Disabilities Education Act.
There you go. Thank you. So that's something to keep in mind. And then now let's talk about expenditures, because I think we've accomplished a lot. And I think I mentioned this at the last meeting when we were setting this meeting up. If you look at the expenditures of this year, a little over $39 million to about $31 million for 2013. Now I have to tell you, out of that, there's a reduction of about a little over $8 million. Of course, $3 million of that is related to no grant revenue. So again, if there's no revenue for grants, there's no expenditures. But if you deduct or subtract those two, you get about $5 million of reductions that the district has accomplished, probably from February, Marchish time frame till now. So I guess what I'm saying is we've come a long way. A lot of that has to do with concessions. One of the things that is in here is the fact that the district may privatize And if we do not privatize, is there an ability to get those reductions through labor relations? So either way, my recommendation to the Board of Education is that you have to adopt a budget that has the reduction of expenditures related to that. Is that clear? Okay. So I guess the good news is that we're headed in the right direction. I mean, that's $5 million in that amount of time is.
I'm sorry.
So, yes.
Back up a sentence. So these proposed 13, 14 numbers already take into account as if,
Yes.
okay.
Yep.
So we're still,
841,000. Now that, again, is stable enrollment, I can't tell you enough, stable enrollment and sale of all properties. The next column,
As if we lose 200.
if you lose, if the district loses 200 students and continues to count the revenue that we could experience from the sale of properties, we still are $2.4 million in the hole. So one of the questions I have for tonight, or something I think that needs to be discussed, is, how do we want to budget for student enrollment? What's the board's pleasure?
I'm sorry. I didn't want to jump on anybody. The budget and planning are two different things. I want to make sure we understand the word, because we need to budget, in my opinion, for the worst-case scenario, especially the SEMCOG data shows that all districts in this area are still going to have declining. And I think we're targeted to lose about 180 by SEMCOG data. But planning for a reduction is a pessimistic view. We have to plan as if we're going to receive 500 kids, but we have to budget
Gotcha.
in a conservative
That
fashion.
makes sense.
So that, I just want to get, we need to flip that mindset, because it's always been in the past, we're going to lose 200
Yeah.
kids, so we need to right size, we need to right size. Well, we need to budget, absolutely, but we need to plan for moving forward.
Right.
Also,
Okay,
to kind of piggyback off of that, with the pending legislation, with the dissolving of the, one of our neighboring districts, I think
It could
that
Positively.
there's a strong possibility that we'll have a
But
bump.
I
But-
still think it's
in our
wise
numbers.
for us
But-
to, however,
Yeah.
Yeah.
plan on the,
But the way I read that act, though, and correct me if I'm wrong, the RISA will determine where those students go, but the way I read the bill was to other districts that are not in a decline. We're in a decline. The only and think about this, the only people that are not in a decline are the EAA districts, the charters.
now, one of the
I'm just
things,
saying.
I know.
we still, we have a second choice window.
Okay.
And so there will be those opportunities for some who are in some of those situations to make those decisions themselves. So that's also something that, we're aware of. So it still might mean that there might be a migration.
Are we going to have Vlas's do a mailing to Inkster resident?
We already have.
That was
Because you
pretty
know what?
bold, wasn't it?
Because I think that, because we're talking elementaries and everything, right?
All of it.
All of
We're
it.
talking everything, complete
Everything.
schools, right? Because I know that I've had a lot of people have been talking about that. They were like doing flips because they were thinking they could come to Romulus, because they said, my child is in an advanced class at Inkster, what do you guys have? Do they have advanced classes? They were just like ecstatic. And I just had this conversation yesterday, so, we probably will get some of those
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah. So there will be another window. In our mailing, those zip codes were included.
Great.
We have all of those who touch us, including some additional. We were very strategic in how we selected the area codes. Certain kinds of materials went to certain area codes that we knew would be candidates for our middle college. Others who, like I said, we were very specific in how we went after that and strategic.
Cool.
So, yes.
And I guess, just to get back to that conversation, the reason I added the last column that says loss of state aid, that $1.6 million is the direct reflection of losing 200 students.
Okay.
Can I just ask to reiterate what you said? You're saying to plan ahead
for the decline of the students.
For the decline.
To budget.
It's better to look at the
Worst case
scenario.
scenario.
Okay,
And-
that's
budgeting.
how
And
I
it's-
feel too. I
But
just
sure,
wanted
that's
to
how
make sure
you,
you
I
were
mean, that's
saying
what
that.
We've always done that.
I think that's
It
a
is,
good way
I
to
guess
do
we're
it.
just being hopeful.
Right.
Well,
so-
what I was
And
doing
all
is I was using semantics.
Yes.
Yes, we need to budget for a decline in students, but we need to plan.
Absolutely.
Right.
And
To
that's what
receive
we're
students.
doing.
So, okay, so since we're kind of there, what does that look like for us? I mean, you know, we know that that would definitely be a possible reflection in employees or staffing and how you staff. And so then are we kind of, you know, following our best practices with, you know, laying off those particular employees and then calling them back as we need them?
Well, let me address
That-
that.
okay.
We've already done our layoffs for the year per contract, and we laid off 18, I believe 18 or
20.
19. Yeah,
Thought it was 20.
was it 20 REA. At this point, we don't know where those loss of students are going to come from. So we planned for maximum class sizes with the layoffs that we have with the current existing staff. So what would happen as we get, and the way our enrollment has always worked, you know, we don't know we're losing those students until the school year starts, typically. Sometimes we'll know a week before, but generally, we don't really know until the first, second week of school gets rolling. At that point, we'll be coming back to the board and having a open discussion. Are we going to do a mid-year layoff as a result of this? Is there an opportunity for us to do a mid-year layoff? Because if we lose 150 students and they're kind of sprinkled throughout, we have to look at our class size maximums and see if there is even an opportunity for us to minimize or reduce our staff.
And conversely, if over the summer we get an influx of new students, they would come to us as well and say,
Exactly.
you know, we're anticipating a huge fourth grade influx, so we need, you know, those needs.
Now, do we have, oh, I'm
Guess
sorry.
I'm lost. So with the loss, like we usually kind of predict for the 200, our layoffs that we've done thus far, do they reflect that?
They do, because what we did is we maximized our class sizes.
Okay.
We went, yes,
Okay.
they do.
But you're saying that in the event that there is an additional decline in
Right.
enrollment?
Or the decline is different than what our
predict-
expectations could have been. Because
okay.
we're really kind of throwing at that dartboard when
No,
we're,
it's always moving.
yeah, it's just moving all the time. Right.
Okay.
Right. But we will be very critically looking at, you know, as we recall staff, are we recalling the staff? You know, we might hold off as long as we can before we do recall any staff into positions.
I know we've waited up until like maybe a week before.
Well, actually,
second
last
week of
year,
school.
yeah, we went all the way to count day with our
Because we were
recalls
already
for
in
our
school.
kindergarten
Yeah,
classrooms.
we
Yeah,
brought
I
it,
remember
yeah.
that.
Which,
Okay.
in hindsight, it was a good decision, even though it was complicated and difficult at the building level for them to manage that. I think the buildings came through very well, curriculum-wise. But had we went ahead and brought all those kindergarten teachers back, we would have been off at Rommel. We would have been off. So I think it was a good call to do it that way. And now that we're doing it, you know, our next year, we get better at each year as we do something new.
I did have one question. This is a little bit off of this, but sort of on it too. If we do have an influx of students, we can only, I mean, our capacity is only so much. So we would have to really look at that, right, to see where we had the room for students.
We'd be okay,
Yeah.
probably for what we would be receiving at this point.
Okay.
Because even though we're maximizing the classrooms, we still have some other spaces that would be
Right.
available for us to do some expanding.
So if we had, I'll use the 80 student example. We have one of our elementaries has 85 students. That wasn't enough to go down to 2. So we do have 3. So when you look at it, we still have lots of room in those
Okay.
classrooms.
That was my, I just kind of wanted to see what it was looking like, because I don't,
Yeah.
Okay.
And remember,
We're in good
school,
shape.
and also remember, school of choice is, you know, we have the option to place those students, you know, where it fits into our buildings.
Well, but under this legislation, I don't know that it's a choice. I think we're told to take them.
Right, but I think that under choice, they can't say, I want to go to Barth, or I want to go to Rommel. I think they want to come to
Whatever we
Romulus
want.
Community Schools, and
Oh.
we can place them.
Okay.
I guess I'm talking about just elementary at this point.
Well, but it's also a different setup. It would be those students in those districts that are specifically being dissolved who have not opted to come through choice
Yeah.
before the other action takes place.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well, let me
That's gonna
ask,
happen.
Missed that part.
okay, so kind of going back to the scenario of if our neighboring district is dissolved, will we be responsible for transportation for those students? Because I could see that just like totally blowing up our budget.
Unless
Are they coming here under school choice?
I would
I-
assume that they're
I
gonna
thought
make
about
us
that too.
undergraduates.
There's nothing that addresses that in the bill
Yeah,
I
I
read.
haven't seen
Okay.
that. We could make that known.
Logically speaking, you know, and I'm cautious to say this,
how
but
could you
logically
not?
speaking is the parent would have to get them within our borders and we would,
Maybe we have
we
like
would
a-
have to,
a
because
stop.
I don't think we can be required to make a bus stop outside of our boundaries without additional funding. But that said, if we get enough of an influx, it might be to our financial advantage to send a bus.
Create a stop.
Westwood does it. You know, I mean,
There's a
well,
lot
they
of people
do.
that
They
come
send,
out
they
here. A
send
lot
a
of
bus to
people-
Fairlane Mall to
lot
pick
of-
up
many of
students.
They
them
go to Detroit.
Many
Yep.
of them do.
Some bus that's up at PNC Bank, the old
Yep.
PNC Bank that sits, brings kids,
Mm-hmm.
picks
So-
up kids.
The answer to that is we don't know.
No, for sure.
You know, and there's another budget piece that's about to hit too. I don't know if you saw it. This got discharged from Senate committee. Well, not discharged, it got voted out of committee and it's going before the entire Senate. Proposal A, when it was passed in '94, there was a 2% additional sales tax. Our wonderful friends on the right side of the aisle have introduced legislation that will exempt aviation fuel from that additional tax.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
That's going to be a $17 million hit to the school aid fund that's not being replaced.
Right.
And, you know, let's see, how many people in Romulus buy aviation fuel? Yes, we did balance our budget without making any cuts to education.
I know, right?
Sorry, we're being facetious.
Okay.
So as you know, the deficit elimination plan that has to be filed in July, I just want to keep this conversation going because we're probably going to have to talk about it in July, at least maybe at one of the other meetings that we're having in July, that we have 2 years, you know, to get out of this. So it
Or
is going,
the plan.
correct.
Okay.
So by the end of June 30th, 2015, I'm making, yes, June 30, 2015, we have to solve this problem. So if we lose 200 students, you know, and there are things, you know, in a year from now, if we continue to lose students, we may have to look at, should I say it, redistricting, closing another building, things that, you know, big item, ticket items, and that'll give us some time to at least prepare for those things next
Exactly.
year. But I just don't want to lose sight of it.
Right, but also too, can we, in those discussions, and I think as a board, we're starting to move that way, is to begin to have those discussions of how can we bring children to our
Yeah.
district.
Right.
I mean, because I know
Right.
that for the sake of being preventative, but also if we know that our number one issue is the student enrollment, then what can we do as a district to remedy that?
And that's, like
That
you
is
said,
true.
that's where we've gone with the new PR, the new advertising
Right.
solicitation
What's
that we're
coming
doing.
around is one of the ads that we're using.
Yeah, this
Next
is in
time, we're
the
gonna have it in,
Telegram.
have them in color
Okay.
and some different things, but that's an example of some of the things that we're putting out in print.
Okay.
And we're also exploring some other things. We're trying to
Okay.
get some good contracts for some other pieces.
Great.
So then the agreement is on Monday night, we will adopt a budget with a 200 FTE decline.
Okay, now, as far as, does that still, because I guess it's kind of drilled in me now as a board member that you can't pass a deficit budget, but we've kind of already done that.
You've already
So-
done that.
We had,
Okay.
The state is expecting us to do that.
Hard to get rid of.
No.
There's more than us doing
Right,
that.
you know, it's hard to get rid of, and that's a good thing.
And the good news is, it's not a drastic amount of money, but, you know, they look at year to year, even though this year, is really the first year, that 2012, 2013 is really when we entered into deficit. You know, the fund balance did go down 200,000, and that's really what they're looking for. It's not a lot of money.
Right.
But they want to show, now if they were to look at a stable enrollment district, and I know we still have this issue of sale of property, and we're going to be hopeful for that as well. But if they were just to look at the amount of progress we've made this school year in the last 3 or 4
I mean,
months.
$5 million is
I really
huge.
think that that's very impressive. It shows the
it is.
commitment on the district's part. And I will make sure to address that with them and
Okay,
for them to
great.
understand every facet that went into the work that the Romulus Board of Education and the employees went into to get us where we are, so.
And what it shows is we're serious about
Yeah.
it. And that's what they look
Yeah.
at.
Yep.
Tangible, real things that
Yeah.
we've implemented.
And Sherry, once we do this, and we adopt a deficit budget, then we have to do our plan.
Our plan
right?
is
Our
due on
deficit
July
plan.
31st.
Okay, and that's when we talk about all those
And that's what
hard
those series
things.
of meetings are that we'll be
Okay.
having.
Yes, that's the series
Yeah.
of meetings in July.
Yep.
Where
We
we'll
will have
be
to.
reviewing
Thank
the
you.
RFPs and.
Okay.
Favorite
and-
part.
I mean, that is another good thing about having the July 15th agenda, is that we'll know a little bit more concrete on what we're doing, so that when that plan goes to the state in 15 or so less days, by the July 30th, we will have a signed, sealed, and delivered decision. And that's what they're looking for.
The state is looking.
That's what they're
Absolutely.
looking for.
That's what
They
sent
don't
them back to
want,
Taylor, because there wasn't.
Yes.
they don't want, this might happen.
Yes.
They want to know it's going to happen. Now, I did ask if anybody had any ideas in terms of, additional reduced expenditures. I got a submittal by one board member, several items on that. I don't know if you want to go through those or not.
Bless you.
Sure, why not?
Okay.
That was.
All right,
Yeah, none of it's new
right.
to their ears, but, just for the sake of conversation, because they didn't see the email I sent you.
And again, it wouldn't be, I don't know if you'd make decisions on this tonight, but at least it would give you some items to think about as we have discussions in July. The first one is to reduce administrative positions at the high school by at least 1 FTE. The second one is to eliminate the counselor at the community high school. Third is to place the director of adult ed program on notice, as is, if the program growth is not experienced in the 2013-14 school year, the position would be eliminated.
What position is that?
It's adult ed
director.
supervisor or manager. To place a freeze on all standing purchase orders and no orders for supplies until each building has conducted a thorough inventory and shared that information with the business office. With the outcome of that could be possible redistribution of supplies that are on, in the district already that could be used.
Do we have? Oh, we did that already? Yeah, I thought we kind of did that. I know that each
They're supposed to, but
school
there's
has
some
like their
hoarding
own.
going
But do
on.
we have like a master?
Not in terms of,
Warehouse.
so, for most equipment, but not for supplies, when you're talking about paper and crayons and pencils.
There
and
used to
things.
be.
There, yeah.
All the purchasing used to come here and go to
No.
the.
Yeah,
the
we don't have a
garage,
warehouse
but-
anymore. They order basically and it gets sent to their school.
But,
Okay.
there's hoarding.
Speaking of inventory, in November, when we went over to Mount Pleasant and went to that building, what happened to the cleanup of that building and selling anything that we could? I mean, now we're 8 months later and there's still nothing.
And remember, we had a little bit of a hiccup in terms of the management of that department, so we're
Right.
behind. I really don't have an updated
Bless you.
answer for you.
We already declared that as surplus though,
Yes.
didn't we?
Right, but
So-
supposedly he had a company that was gonna
He
come
does.
in and salvage what they could to sell it, or maybe even do a flea market, or try to get rid of some of these materials that were
I
really.
will readdress that issue. for the
We got, even
department.
like I said, there's that big file cabinet system in there that doctors use that have the foldable files. It's just sitting in that room. I mean, I couldn't see some medical clinic not wanting something like that.
I'll
Those are
get,
expensive.
I'll get an update for the board.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, John.
Increase building use fees by 50%.
Can I speak to that and as to
Sure.
why I said that?
I have a comment too.
Increase
Increase
building
building,
use
so if
fees,
someone rents
because
space.
we really don't charge much for
No,
using
we
our
don't.
facilities. We are way below market.
What's the going rate? Because I don't want to
Well-
price our, I want to make
I know,
You know.
and this is, you're gonna be like, well.
'Cause a lot of it's like
For,
community members.
for 2012, 2013, it would be about an increase of $4,400.
Oh, okay, so it's negligible and it's not
But
even
it's
worth it.
something that you might want to consider, and I know it's a difficult conversation, is, we still provide a lot of free space to organizations. And it's really no skin off our back because we have employees in the district. We're not opening up in hours that we wouldn't have staff in the building anyway at nighttime because we have custodial staff. But it might be something we might want to look at in the future.
When you say free space, what are you referring to?
A lot of organizations come into the district and use the space for free.
Come
As long as it's
Come
in,
One Unity or whatever, Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts.
we've always offered that for free.
Yeah.
Is it time to, start treating them as a customer in terms of being a vendor that pays?
Yeah.
I think we have to be real careful because if they're Romulus residents
And
and
most
they
of
feel
those
like
are.
they
Kind of feel
pay
like you're paying your
they're
taxes.
True.
paying, so it's like you're paying
I was meaning like the
twice.
dance companies.
He was,
that
I
rent
brought that
the-
up.
Yeah, because you're like paying twice.
Mm-hmm.
You're paying your taxes for the schools and then now you gotta pay to use it,
Mm-hmm.
There's promoters that use our buildings
Oh, yeah, I'm
for concerts, for stage productions, for fashion shows, things. I mean, these are for-profit entities.
Well, and that was
those-
what I was
I
under
can
the
understand.
impression
That's
was
where
that
I'm
the
going.
for-profit
We do.
organizations we charge.
We do.
It's
Oh,
the-
absolutely.
The nonprofits like the homeowners
Mm-hmm.
associations, Cub Scouts, those types of organizations that we didn't charge a
And
fee.
that is true.
And maybe possibly if to have that discussion, maybe we need to kind of look at like how late are they having those? Because if we're having to pay overtime to employees or, that kind of thing, then
For the most
how do we
And for,
absorb
and
that?
for the most part, we're not.
Okay,
We basically tell them we have a custodian on staff until
Okay.
X, time at night, and that's when you're allowed in the building.
gotcha.
Usually-
But as far as like for instance, we have a basketball clinic that's going on in our doors now. I'm hoping that we're charging for
We
that.
are. We are.
Or the use of the pool and those types of things.
Yes,
Okay.
that's true. Review and follow through with no refrigerators in the classrooms. I can't remember a dollar amount right now, but I probably have some statistical or some data provided by the previous energy manager in terms
now,
of that.
Can I, since
Sure.
you kind of threw that out there? And I know that was one of those things that kind of fell by the wayside with budget reductions was the energy manager. Would you or do you have any data or information on if our costs have increased since
Yes.
since we've eliminated that position? Because
Yes.
that was kind of one of those things that I was like, although you want to promote the culture of savings and energy and that kind of thing, but I think not that I'm even advocating to bring that particular position back, but what types of things can we kind of put in-house to be able to monitor that,
So
Or
the
using
usage,
existing employees.
and I'd
in the
rather give
program.
the data to you when I have it in front of me and
No,
the
that's
exact
fine.
numbers.
I just
But I
wanted to
will
kind
tell
of
you
bring it
right
up.
now, there was an increase in usage from last year in terms of the heat. Now that, gas, we had a colder summer, I believe, this year. We had a milder winter, did I say summer?
Yeah,
Winter
it was-
season was
it
a
was
little bit
cold.
colder.
Yeah, it was a lot
But in
colder.
terms of electricity, that is on the rise too. So I think,
What was
that-
the difference? I mean, how much?
and again, I don't want to speak out of turn tonight. I definitely will update you on the
Okay.
differences so that you're aware of the impact of not having a person per se that's all that they do monitoring. Now, I will tell you that Mr. Morris and myself tried to do the best we could
Right.
in terms of keeping up with the program and entering data into the software program that calculates, where we're going to be and if we're above usage or not, depending on temperatures and things of that nature. And it's a difficult thing to keep up with. We haven't, definitely haven't been 100% up to date as if we had somebody on staff full-time doing it. So
Well,
we're
and-
doing the
and-
best we can, but it's honestly not good enough.
Absolutely. And I'll be honest, the reason I put that on my list of things is because we've gotten lax with it. And there are many, especially at the high school, There are many teachers, and I think we all know to whom I'm referring to, that are selling nice ice-cold Capri Suns out of their classroom 6 hours a day. We have other teachers that are loading groceries through their classroom windows and filling backpacks and having students sell candy bars and drink pouches throughout the school day to raise money for specific athletic teams. Those are nice things to have, but the refrigeration costs are inappropriate. We do not need coffee makers, microwaves, and refrigerators in a classroom. And we have a lot of them. And I would even say, you know, the very large number of vending machines we have in the schools, especially the middle school and the high school, I don't know that they generate the funds necessary to offset because from
The
my
electric-
understanding,
for
the
electrical.
money from those machines goes into activity accounts. So it doesn't come to general fund, but general fund's paying for the electricity for those machines.
Well, what about just cutting the lights off in general at night? Like, I mean, when you go by the middle school,
Absolutely.
2 in the morning, the hallway lights are on. I mean,
Yeah, and I think that's
someone
more
gets
of
in the
a,
building, I can see them anyway. I mean,
Yeah.
the exit lights alone should light hallways up and like, I mean, those are big lights to be running when there's no one in the building. When you drive by there and it's like daylight sometimes, you know?
Well, you got one person in the high school and have every light in the gymnasium on.
You know, I mean, leave the building, shut the lights off. And, you know, you can't say it's for security reasons. I mean, that building's so big, if someone breaks in, you're not gonna see them anywhere from driving by the window,
I'll address that.
you know? I mean, let's shut them all off at night, and that's what exit lights are for. They light up hallways, you know?
I'm gonna go and move on. Eliminate the middle school athletic program. And the question was asked about some of the smaller grants, like SEMCA. Could those funds be used elsewhere in classrooms to attain the same goals and outcomes? And the answer to that is,
Generally, no.
depends what grant. But for the most part, what we're doing now, they're very specific.
Well, and the reason that that's a recurring theme from Rob is because those of us that work administratively in this side of the table, we know. We see the data, we see the programs, we know the purpose of the program. John and Mary Public see that we're sending FCCLA kids to Traverse City, or we're sending DECA kids or whoever to Cedar Point or to Washington DC, or, the HOSA. They don't get it.
understand.
And what my question is can some of those same things be done in a classroom setting? And I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. So your
But-
question is the same goal of the grant, but maybe in a
Delivered in a different
Yes,
way.
okay. Okay.
Because I know the grants are specific for those programs and, you know, the vocational technical education, you know, and, you know, I don't want to put any particular one of these programs, you know, in a hot seat, but just because there's money in in the VOC-Tech budget doesn't mean it needs to be spent on one of these type activities. If we can buy additional equipment or something for, you know, the health ops class, for the culinary arts class, for the business management class, you know, yes, the money has to be spent or we lose it. I get that part, but it's how we spend it that I think we need to take a tweak at.
But we also, as we look at it, we don't want to, if we've got something that will support some of those kinds of activities that we absolutely can't afford otherwise, even as we're looking at some other alternatives on ways to spend it, we don't want to lose out on those opportunities for our kids if funds will come to support it. I know some training we've just been through that talks about what the brain needs to really learn. And sometimes some of those other kinds of activities
Reinforce it.
really reinforce and help it stick and help create an environment in the brain where other learning will all of a sudden have a hook and take hold. So I think what we need to do is really as we're working with the different groups, examine what the different opportunities are and make sure that we're getting the best bang for the buck. But, you know, remembering that those kinds of opportunities are also important, especially if it's from a grant that has that as identified as something that's special to do also. So we don't want to lose sight of that.
Anybody have anything to add?
Do we pay the bills at Corey for electric and stuff?
We pay our portion, well, actually, we pay the whole building, and part of the rental fee covers their portion.
For the people who, we had a new program this year, the Head Start.
Anybody have anything else they want to throw out for conversation? My
Right.
point was just to generate
And that's good.
discussion.
Yeah,
And I think the refrigerators and all that, that generates a lot of energy. I learned that at my own house, you know, so that really is something that can make a substantial difference.
Computer probably stays on every day. So we need to start this building.
have we, you know, I know that you asked for ideas, and so we've got our marketing, kind of begun putting that in place. What types of, we always talk about value add type programs, you know, and I'm wondering if there's anything that we have as a district that we could bump up. I know what comes to mind first and foremost is our LIFT program for our special education students. And, you know, what would that look like if we were to really kind of invest some time in really, you know, marketing that, especially seeing that with the Act 18 that's going to be, you know, it's just been kind of hovering and looming out there, and they've gradually been giving us back responsibilities as far as our special education programs are concerned. Will we be kind of addressing that in the marketing to kind of, you know, and I don't even know what the threshold number is for
And that's
the
one of the
amount of
things-
students that we can accept into the program?
We have been having that discussion
Okay.
with, you know, Mrs. Mitchell,
Okay.
and we are looking at those thresholds and at what point will we need to bring someone else in, and, you know, the balancing act that we're trying to take a look at. But we have, because we've seen such success, and that's something that you don't see anywhere else. So we're a destination for that.
Okay.
Do those class have a threshold of like 15 students? I know they can have more in their caseload, but.
You know what, we had that conversation and I really don't remember what she said.
It was low.
I would have to go back.
It was a
and-
low number.
Yes, it
It
was.
was either
Probably.
9, it was either 9 or 15, somewhere in there.
They were
I think
kinda
it's probably
close.
15 in the room, and I think it only goes to 17 or 19 as like on their actual
Right.
caseload.
Right, so you have to be careful when it comes to that, because you want to have commitment for enough, kind of like that,
Because
you know,
once you add an employee, you own them.
you own them.
That's right, that's right, and that's been our
Yeah.
conversation.
One of the things that I know is being marketed heavily in the value add is the early college. That's also at the elementary level. You know, all of those little tick points that are great are going right into those elementary households. One thing that we haven't brought to the board yet for discussion, but something that we're kind of toying around with, is another opportunity to capture some FTEs from around the community through a seat time waiver. We've played with seat time waivers, and our conclusion always comes up to, we just can't afford
You're
the-
talking about for cyber education
Yes.
opportunities.
Yeah, we just can't afford the, one of the requirements of a seat time waiver is that you provide technology and the internet connection to any student that is on a seat time waiver. And that always kind of comes back to us, because how do we afford to do that?
Right.
We're now in conversations with a few companies that
Yes.
are starting to kind of build. I think we might have even had a little teaser at our last board meeting, where we had talked about the K-12 program, which is pretty well known nationally. So we're kind of looking at those
Exploring,
opportunities,
yes.
because those are things that, again,
Seriously.
will serve a gap within the whole community, not just Romulus, but in our surrounding community. And right now, there isn't anybody that's filling that hole.
So, because of the kind of the downsizing, that we've moved our community high school over to our high school, has there been any talks or discussions about kind of really amping that back up? Because that has been, you know, I mean,
Or
as an
promoting it.
evidence of the graduation, we have
Yes.
quite a few individuals who definitely,
Benefit.
you know, benefit from that particular program. But, you know, I don't know that we've been as diligent as we could be to really, you know, promote that program, you know, or are we just kind of like, oh.
No, we're not. We've got, well, with our mailings, we have some specific flyers devoted to that with some specific zip codes and, you know, area code, or with the little 4-digit that goes along with it. We also, I've, you know, been working with Mr. Grantham, and he's been very aggressively going after some targeted
Okay.
areas, and also understanding that this is kind of a test year. If we can do what we know can happen, which is goes to the planning, you know, to really start to see it take hold and really grow again. And you know, when you've got that real threat of it coming away, sometimes that's the ignite. That's what you need to get it going.
Yeah.
One of the things that we've also noticed, and this is, again, going back into that ebb and flow pattern of education, is everybody, I would say, I'll say 5 years ago is when it started. Everybody started to kind of hold tight onto all their FTEs. We saw it in Belleville, we saw it in Taylor, we saw it in Wayne Wesleyan. These programs that we typically get a lot of students from started marketing back to those students and saying, you know what, we can do this. Well, what, as their programming has kind of flowed through, they couldn't do it as well as it was impacting their traditional programming. So they're now opening up they're not opening them up, you know, freely, but they are now allowing us to have conversations. We actually, Mr. Grantham has already had several meetings with local area counselors who were on a gag order from their superintendents for the last 5 years. Honestly, they weren't even allowed to recommend an alternative setting to students. They kept pushing them back into their doors. So we're hopeful that
That's gonna.
but again, going back to, this is really for Romulus, this is a make it or break it year for us.
Have we looked at, kind of, you know, we have our early college and our new partnership with Wayne County Community. Is there anything that could possibly come out that would be a benefit to a lot of our CHS students in the adult ed program, that maybe we could build a partnership with them to where they can get like an actual IT skill, or you know, that kind of training, to maybe we could have an additional program that's kind of, you know, tailor fit to
In some
those
initial
particular.
discussions back a while, not in this most recent that we've had, we kind of talked about some things like
Okay.
that. So, yeah, we can bring that right back to the
Okay,
to the
I'm
surface.
just trying to.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
and Mike
Pull it out
Dotson,
stuff.
Mike Dotson, he's the president of the
Okay.
Belleville campus. He did, in one of the conversations I had with him, he's interested in any kind of partnership
Right.
Okay.
that we wish to go forward with. And he did mention our at-risk population,
Right.
and trying to find at least maybe a
Certificate
certification
Yes,
program.
and
yeah.
that's
Right,
exactly.
yeah.
A vocational
That was the
certification
conversation
kind of
when I had it.
program.
We
So
were talking about a
there's
certificate
absolutely opportunities there. The question's going to become who gets the FTE.
Right, and I know that, because there's, Helena Belchner.
Belchner.
She's really heavy on that vocational training and having job skills, and I know that, you know, she would probably definitely be an advocate for us if we decided to go along those lines, as, you know, getting that input and push from Wayne Risa.
And I tell you another thing that we're doing, because I tell you, as excited as I get when I'm at graduations, and I see all of our wonderful graduates going across the stage, what I also have in my mind is, for everyone that goes across, I gotta get a new one in.
Right.
So I need a kindergartner or somebody to come in, you know, and I want our graduation rate to be over the moon, but when I see them, I say, okay, do you have a little kindergarten brother or sister that's coming along? Well, one of the things that we're doing as an extension of Camp Learn a Lot this year, and that's going out on our flyers also with Velasquez, it's on there. We're doing a special kindergarten 4-day workshop for parents and kindergartners and their kids. And we are very excited. We're going to have incoming kindergartners, and the criteria is that you must be enrolled. But the time that we're going to have that one is going to be coinciding pretty closely with our...
Can you make sure we know when that happens?
I sure will.
Because I think
I
that'd
sure
be a
will.
good visit.
I sure will. And we're going to be looking at, one day is going to talk about science, one day we're going to talk about social studies, and one day we're going to talk about, writing and pre-reading, but it's going to be reading across all areas.
Okay.
So we're going to be doing things, it's only going to be 3 hours, it's going to be in the evening, and then our last day that we come together, we're going to talk about how to have fun, and we're going to have a swim night.
Okay.
Oh,
So,
fun.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
they're gonna have
we're
a
looking
ball.
forward to that. So that's us trying to help draw at that, those that I need to get in, because all of my seniors have walked across.
A swim night at our pool?
Yes.
Yes, we,
No, we're going to rent the rag.
Yes.
Well,
Sorry.
No, swim night at ours.
it's happened.
Yes, I know.
What about the Rudgate community? Are we did anything yet to call them?
We're trying to get the flyers together that will be appropriate for, and what we've been trying to find out are the kind of the ages that are in that area, so
Maybe-
that we can be targeted.
I mean, they have a clubhouse that has a office. I mean,
Maybe they can
maybe
tell.
stop in there and talk to them face to face might work better, because
Okay,
I think trying to get
Okay.
in there.
And it's called West Village.
West Village now.
okay.
oh, yeah.
And do we have an ROTC program anymore? Is that something? Should we look into getting maybe something like that? Because I'm sure there's got to be some kind of federal. There should be some federal grants, I would imagine, to have an ROTC program that the
Actually,
government.
Hal's been working on that for 2 years. It's getting frustrating, and I just mentioned it briefly with him probably about a month ago. It's getting to the point where we're going to call Congressman Dingell's office, and yes, I said Dingell, not Conyers. We've requested, you've probably seen them. The Army ROTC especially has got booths set up at the school conferences we go to. I've given them information. I've taken their information and had Hal call them. Whether it's a funding issue from their end or whether they're just not that into us, we can't get an answer from them. But Hal's been trying to get either Army or I believe it's
The Marines has one also.
yeah, but I
Have
think the
they
big ones are Army and Navy though. I think.
Contacted our,
'Cause I've been with the
Our-
Marines.
Boy Scouts?
no, our teacher that's very connected with the
He's a
Marines.
Marine, yeah.
Mr.
Oh, Mr. Smith.
Mr. Smith, yeah.
I mean, I know that he's
Yeah.
very active in I don't know if he's reserves, but I know he's very active in.
See, my
his
guess is
Marine
there's
League.
so many units
And he's
allowed
active
in a
with Young
county.
Marines.
And that really fills a need, because I've been in a couple of districts where they had very strong ROTC. One was Army, one was Marines.
Air Force.
And, now don't make me break out in all of their songs, because I know them all and I know all the words. But it really fills a need. We have students who, they learn a certain kind of discipline and a respect for themselves and a whole lot of other things in addition to just the training that they get. And interestingly enough, in the in one of their textbooks, the Army's ROTC textbooks uses something called thinking maps, and that's one of the things that we have adopted in the district, a K-12 initiative. And when I first was in a district where they were introducing the thinking maps, and the folks at the high school is, who needs this? Well, then our ROTC brought their textbooks out, and there they were in their textbooks. So it gave it all kind of credibility, but yes, I think that
Yeah.
us
I
trying to
think
really
that's
follow
more
up on that
discipline,
is
I think, in
important.
that
Well, yeah, that too.
Well,
I
Because those
think
kids are in
it
uniform all
changes.
day, you
Yes.
get them in the hallway walking, and,
Yeah.
And it's hugely academic. It
I
hugely
know Wayne
STEM
Memorial
oriented.
has.
Yes.
Well,
Oh, we used to have a good
Active
Navy
ROTC.
program.
Yeah.
When I went to school, we had Navy ROTC.
Yeah. Well, I was obviously Air Force, and we learned weather, the math, the engineering. We on paper learned how to fly a plane. We had to do the routing. It's a huge program. But my suspicion is that they, through the DoD budgets or whatever, because that's where, and the district would have to have matching funds. So there's going to be a funding issue there.
Right.
But my suspicion is there's only so many per county or per
Oh,
per
okay.
geographic location, whatever that determination is. But a few districts have kind of fallen off the radar, if you
Yeah,
pardon
that's
the
what I was
pun.
gonna say. What
Closest
other
one.
districts
Yeah,
have?
Well, Southgate has one, Taylor has got a huge
Oh,
program,
do
Yeah,
they?
Wayne West.
Belleville, I
Wayne
believe,
does.
does, Wayne Westland,
Inkster did,
Garden
but
City,
don't
I
know if
think,
they
does.
still do.
Yeah,
Well,
there's quite a
how many
few.
high school graduates do we have enlisted into the military, do we know?
A lot.
Yeah, we have.
I think that would be, if we could get those numbers, that might
They
be,
get more and more every year.
well, I mean, that could be a good plus for an ROTC program if we can tell.
I'll make a call,
And then there's the.
I'll make a
because
call
they
and see if
actually
we can
do,
get some fire started there.
testing as well, I think it's ASVAB, which, and
Armed
just having.
Services Vocational Aptitude Battery.
Yeah, and they just say that really is a very good test for those students to take because it kind of lets them know, where their deficiencies are so that they can work on it. And it actually helps them taking the ACT as well too, so.
I mean, even thinking, trying to get like a theater program back, because, I mean, if we had a good theater group, they could be doing plays nightly, bringing in the public for ticket prices, like some other schools I've seen do. I mean, they're charging to the public. I
Right.
mean, especially around the winter, the October through February month when it's play weekends. I mean, to have a weekend play, God, we got so many seniors that would love to see a play. The community would love to see a play. I mean, instead of
Our
going downtown.
kids would love to act in
And
them.
to act in them, but if you could do weekend runs like that, even if you
love
did
to
one
have them
weekend a
do
month,
it.
if you did one weekend a month, that still gives them, 7 weeks of
We used to
rehearsing.
have that.
We used to
Well,
have it.
and I guess this becomes a question that we need to look as a value add, as something. Do we roll the dice? Do we say we're going to finance that program with an instructor, with the support and the tools they need, and then those ticket receipts will helpfully offset that budgetary commitment? But it's going to require a budgetary commitment to make that I wouldn't be opposed to.
Right.
Because at this point, I don't mean to sound cavalier, and I know none of us do, but you have to spend money to make money. And we have to start doing things that are going to bring students in here and deliver the bang for the buck and the academic things. And study after study after study will show that students that are involved in the fine arts, whether it be band, art, or theater,
Or dance,
or dance,
putting that out there,
Yeah.
because we have
They
a dance
excel.
room that's not even
Yeah.
being used.
Well,
and I'm
they
just
said
they
wondering
excel.
They moved STEM to STEAM. And when they added that A in, it's for the arts.
why. Okay.
Mhm.
And so when you start to see that, it's where they took STEM and put the arts in there because of the research that does support the fact that the
Yeah.
arts really are instrumental in helping some kids.
Well, they require both
Access
sides
the
of the
other.
brain to interact with each other.
There
That's
you
that's
go.
the statistic.
And someone mentioned before at this table about, having the airport here. How come we can't contact like Delta Airlines or someone at Willow Run about some kind of aviation class?
I know we
Actually,
used to
I
do
mean,
it.
almost that they could fund.
Right.
That was one of the
We did
topics
do one.
discussed when we had that legislative lunch back when the basketball team did their thing. That was one of the topics discussed with Mike Conway from the airport. Has there been follow-up since then? No, I'm not gonna lie to you. But it is, again, to use the pun, it is on the radar
Okay.
because the matter of fact, the comment that I made from the floor that day was, we've got one of the busiest and largest airports in the country in our city. We should have the best aviation
Smack dab in the
program
middle.
in this country.
Did we not have an aviation class when we went to
Yeah.
high school
We
there?
used
Because
to
I think I
have
took
one.
it.
Well,
Years
just
ago.
not too long ago.
Well,
I mean,
we
talking about-
participate with
still partner
MIAT, but,
Yeah, we still partner.
but the
That's what I'm
problem with
talking
that
about,
is
yeah.
we don't have a lot of kids that are taking advantage of
So not
that program
using
because it's off-site and the time commitment involved in that program off-site.
It's at Willow Run.
We just, yeah, we need to.
Yeah, but with technology today, you can probably do a lot of stuff in-house.
That's my
I mean,
point.
computers and,
Absolutely.
and flying stuff.
And who is it? Warren Consolidated, one of the school districts out there just built a huge, we were there for a school conference, weren't we? For a
Yeah.
MAS, CBA class.
Yeah.
They've got a Voc Tech Center that was built
yeah.
by
Awesome.
the big three, by some airline, somebody, was it Douglas Aeronautics?
I'm not
Somebody,
sure. I
somebody
just know-
aeronautics. But I mean, this building is
It's awesome.
awesome. And
And it's like multi-usage because they use it for their board meetings, they use it for a lot of different, and
it's
they
a
use it
and
as
it's a training center,
facility.
absolutely.
Yeah,
And
yeah, it's
it,
beautiful.
to liken it, John, like the William Ford Voc Tech Center in Wayne Westland, which I wish there was a
I mean, I think
feasible way
some
for us to
programs,
participate
it's just
in
tough
that.
to do an
Right.
after-school program. Like, I mean, if you're doing theater or choir, to get, an after-school to do 1 hour a week is tough. I mean, they almost need
It is.
like, I know when I went to school, I know we used to have radio and theater, we had drama once a day. I mean, it was a elective. So you were in that class every day, but you had to perform monthly in front of the high school and the public. I mean, that was drawing revenue in, so. And whether you get somebody who's either a teacher or just someone to do a stipend,
Be careful, you're on mic. Be careful.
So it almost sounds like we kind of need a study session off of the study session to kind of really discuss some of what we as a district have to offer. What are we wanting to really kind of dive into? Do we want to put a whole lot of chicks in the basket and hope that, or do we want to really devote energies and kind of make like a priority hit list of how we want to bring?
Can I
bring
make a
this stuff
suggestion
in?
for that?
Sure.
Because, that is absolutely a wonderful idea. Given the drama and the emotion level that's we're still in the middle of,
Right.
I would think that perhaps in late summer, maybe even after Fourth Friday into the fall, we schedule a retreat.
Yeah.
And that's we need to have a few retreats. One of them
Yeah.
needs to be the MASB one that's provided through the superintendency about board and superintendent relationships and expectations and roles. And I think that absolutely needs to happen. I think that us having a retreat where we dedicate an afternoon or a full day to brainstorming on value adds, where do we go from here, and include the administrative team in that retreat so that we can sit and have a no holds barred conversation about plus and minuses for those things.
where we
And I
stand,
think
but yeah, what
getting
we
ready
look
to
at.
have such a retreat, I think the administrative team could help because we've heard the conversation tonight, start gathering the information, the ideas, keep a little file going. That's probably going to be a large file. And in the meantime, I will make absolutely sure, John, that I contact on an ROTC program, because that's something that you've brought up before.
Right.
I've brought
I brought
it,
it up,
several of us
yeah.
have brought it up before. And, it's time to stop talking and actually do it. So-
I think it's a good idea, even like you were saying, on what we charge. It's almost like a business now anymore, like a fee schedule. I mean, we have to compete with the RAC. We have a pool. Somebody wants to have a pool party. Why can't we use our pool? If someone's going to pay all that money to go to the RAC, we have a pool too that we could give a discount. We have a theater. If a group wants to do something, we have a gym. If people want to do leagues. I mean, there's people. I know
love
I've
it.
played basketball before in Lake Allen Park with buddies on a Tuesday night. Renting the gym out.
Community
So.
event or something.
And I mean, almost come up with a
So
fee
as
schedule.
part of our marketing, did you know you can rent Romulus?
Yeah.
Da-da-da-da-da.
Oh my God, I mean, you'd rent a pool party. I
But
mean,
you
it'd
bet
be-
we have to come up with a fee schedule that's.
Absolutely.
yeah,
Going to meet our
almost compare,
benefits.
but, I mean, yeah, we
And the
can't offer like the rack
differentiation.
can for the pool,
Right,
but you could,
between community
an intimate
and
party, I mean, you,
Right.
you rent a party at the rack, you gotta compete with everybody else who's swimming at the rack.
Right.
But, if you had your own little pool, one entrance in, you're right there, boom, they don't have luxury around the building. If we rented a theater, you go in the side door, everything's
Yeah.
caged, I
Right
mean,
there.
you know? So,
Good points. We got a little bit off topic, but
Yeah,
but
but
the conversation was good, though, and needed to happen.
That's good
has to do with the
discussion.
budget, really.
right.
That's good discussion.
Absolutely,
Planning, that
absolutely.
Forward planning.
And just kind of, just a small interjection into the, when we do the MASB, if we could revisit our vision and goals to kind of,
Yeah.
we need to tweak
Yeah,
it.
And we also need, one of those workshops needs to be on board operating procedures.
And could we-
Do we revisit that or not? Because that's still a document that we never approved, even though it's been circulated out, because it was actually used as a training document of the MASB class that I went to. And I saw Romulus Community Schools on it, I'm like, oh, really? Because we never approved that.
No, we have not.
Just saying.
We also look at our mission statement.
That's what she just said.
Yeah.
She said goal, I mean.
She said mission and vision and goals.
Mission two, I mean, well,
Yeah.
that's included.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry. It was a gnat that was driving
This
me.
was me.
But yeah,
my
absolutely.
baby.
We need to update all that good stuff and
Okay.
in the vision. Thanks.
Well, we got our work cut out for us, but I think it just,
We got a
to
lot
me,
ahead.
behooves us to start really, I know that there's always the doomsday reports that we feel like we're, that knee-jerk reaction, but I think it would be therapeutic for us to really start talking about some things that, how do we make ourselves better? How do we, improve the services that we have? What do we need to look at? How do we bring, kids to this district? And like Dr. Daniel said at the luncheon yesterday is, making Romulus a place, a destination place. And, so what does that look like for us? Being that destination spot. And I really feel like that kind of begins with the schools. Families come to cities because of the school districts.
Right.
I have another one for your list. Something like Specs Howard, like a 2-year
Yes.
radio program class.
Yes.
Because they're not gonna be able to spend $10,000 when they come out, but if we could partner with Specs and make it a class,
Ooh, yeah, that would be great.
someone get out of
Sure
school,
would.
they have a 2-year,
Absolutely.
I'm sure something like Specs.
We'll
would be-
rely on your
Couldn't you? I was
expertise.
gonna say, you could teach that, couldn't you?
Yeah, in the spare time.
We're not fight fires and auditioning and.
Did you have anything else, Sherry?
No, I think, a lot of our work's gonna be
Cable show.
in July.
Yeah.
Do a theater.
Thank you for getting this for us. I mean, this is
Yeah, thank you.
welcome.
Are there any questions or concerns of board members? Start with you, Daniel.
No, not at this time. We do have our meeting on the 24th and, I'm just getting my mind wrapped
Do you like
around.
staying until then?
Oh, gosh.
You know,
So, just making sure that we have the information. I did have one question though. How early will and I guess this is a Steve question, is how early will this particular meeting be made available on our web,
On
on the YouTube?
Can you pop your head out?
We're gonna try and do it tomorrow.
Wonderful, because I've been getting like alerts all day long for
You've been
meetings
uploading.
that have been like from 2004. I was like, go Steve! I know, right? So, just so that, we do have 2 members who weren't able to participate with us today. So I wanted to make sure that they have access to the conversation that we had at this table so that we can all be ready for Monday.
True.
So that's it for me.
Can you get a what?
too bad you can't burn a DVD.
Could we burn a DVD for them?
That way
Great.
they have it.
Okay.
Ms. Buckley?
No, thank you.
And-
It could wait. It could
Mr.
wait.
Dean?
I'm good, no.
No, the only thing I was just gonna mention is like when we were talking about these retreats and stuff, even if we can throw in dates, give them dates, tentative dates,
Mhm.
so that we can plan towards them, because I think if we wait till the last minute, then it's hard to coordinate everybody's schedule. But if you get it in the books early, then you can So maybe have a day where we can sit down and kind of throw some dates out.
Everybody make sure you bring your calendars with you to the next meeting, and maybe we'll try and throw some dates out.
Got it. I got mine.
Well, I'm not ready now.
Okay.
We need everybody here. We need everybody.
It was honest. I just want to bring up two things. One, not to put you on the spot, Dr. Daniels, but I want to kind of make the board aware of something that came to my attention Friday, and Dr. Daniels jumped on it right away. It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. She jumped on it right away, but we already offer these kind of programs. You folks all know we offer summer food programs throughout the district in many of our buildings. There's another community organization out there, and I'm sorry I don't remember the name of their organization. I mean no disrespect to you, ma'am, if you're watching. And this woman contacted Senator Hopgood's office.
Okay.
Because the location they had been using for the last 2 years pulled back. And she has the funding, it's a grant-funded program. She doesn't have a home. We did try to find her a home in one of our buildings, but the concern was, and correct me if I overstate this, but the concern was if we bring that program in, it's going to compete against the grant programs we have and could cause us to have a compliance or a loss of our own programs, and that's just not good for anybody, because then it's the kids that lose out. Dr. Daniels did put a call out to the Ministerial Alliance, and I did have a brief conversation with Reverend Willis yesterday at the luncheon, and he is trying to find a home for this program. But in case, because this person contacted the senator's office and then they contacted me, in case she takes it to the next step and contacts any of you, I didn't want you to go, what are they talking about, or how come nobody, they're trying to get the best of both worlds. Did I say that right? Okay. And again, this next one, I'm sorry, I don't play the gotcha game, and this is not directed at our central office team at all, but our building level administrators need to, when we start school up in the fall, they need to step up their game with getting stuff to the media. I don't like getting phone calls from the media saying they're not getting phone calls returned. They're not getting information that they've specifically requested to recognize our students, our schools, our achievement. I don't like it. And it was dealt with. When I emailed the superintendent, she got on it right away. Again, this is not directed at her or anybody else in the board office, but we need to ring our bell. We need to get this information out there. And it's the expectation that I think we all have, that especially when the word free is on there, there's not a reason for data and information to not flow. And I wanted to say that publicly because I better not qualify that. Never mind. So yeah, if we can bring our agendas or our calendars to our next meeting, we'll set some potential dates for things. If the administration has nothing else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support. Moved by Ms. Buckley, supported by Mr. Theed. Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, meeting is adjourned at 7:14. Thank you.